Hello, 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 Filter Free America listeners. We are back together again here at Camp Filter Free America. Welcome to the show, guys. It's not really a camp, it's a podcast. I don't know why I said that. It's just trying to, you do these intros for these podcasts enough, and they tend to sound the same, and you use some of the same gimmicks and everything. So every time I try to do fresh, I don't ever prep the stuff. I just spill off top of my brain. So whatever comes out, comes out. Whatever. Welcome to the show. We're glad you're here. A special welcome to all the new listeners that we've got. Listenership has grown substantially over the last month. Seems like every episode we're going up another tier of listenership and all the charts and graphs information that I'm provided via Podbean. So welcome all the new people. Have a seat, get comfortable, take a look around, fix yourself a drink, pack yourself a bowl, whatever you need to do it. But feel welcome here in the Filter Free America podcast. Don't forget that we've got, what have we got? Close to 30 episodes now since the reboot. 30 episodes of back episodes. I'm just going to say 30. I think it's like 28 maybe, that you can go back and check out. So if this is the first episode that you're listening to, listen to this and then go look at all the other things we've got. I mean, got a lot of very cool conversations with a lot of very cool people. We got a lot of cool topics that we talk about, interesting experiences, some good, some sad, some happy, some bad, some tragic. We've got a combination of everything. So that's what this show provides. But again, welcome to everyone. And also, again, welcome to the people who've been here from day one. Appreciate you guys. Been here from day one, helping make this podcast a thing. All right, let's take care of the business real fast. All right, first off, let's talk about today's episode. This episode is I am joined by a buddy of mine from the comedy scene here in the Twin Cities. His name is Chad Juettner. Chad Juettner, comic here in the area. I don't think he does comedy as much as he used to. I think he does it kind of passively now because he has a big boy job that requires a lot of attention. So, but he's a funny dude regardless, and I was happy to get a chance to talk with him. Conversation we're going to have, or that we did have in the pre-recorded interview section, was his family adopted a kid. He and his wife adopted a kid, and I wanted to talk to him about the whole process of adoption. How does it work? All the nuts and bolts, if you will, about how to get a kid, the steps you have to go through to get approved to get a kid, and whatever. And I just want to learn every angle of that. And his child was adopted from another country, so of course that adds another dynamic to the whole process. And the child that he adopted actually had a pretty severe medical condition. And he gets into all the who, what's, whens, wheres, and whys of adopting a child with a medical condition, why he adopted that child, what country he adopted her from, why that country, and all kinds of things. All those little questions get answered. Now, on the surface, if you don't look too deep, you might think, oh, that's the best episode this time. Well, I think you should give it a chance because, like what we're learning, even the most mundane or simple topics on the surface, once you start digging, once you start asking questions, you find a lot of interesting facts, a lot of interesting information and personal anecdotes that come around when going through these experiences. And they almost always make for really great episodes. And this one here is no exception. I think you'll go through a little bit of emotional roller coaster, a lot like the last episode where there's some good, there's some sad, there's some tragic, there's a little bit of everything for this one. So prepare to have your emotions exercised while listening to this episode. So yeah, that will be that. And let's do business. Oh yeah, sponsor mention, simple website, simplewebsite.us, simplewebsite.us. One more time, simplewebsite.us. Now, regular listeners, you know what Simple Website is, right? That's the place you want to go if you're planning to build a Squarespace website and you want some help doing it. Okay, that's what they do, right? Now, we all know that Squarespace was designed to be the website builder you can do on your own, but we all know how reality is. A couple things. Either one, you're not as technically savvy as you thought you were. That was my case. Or maybe you don't have enough time, or maybe you're just balling out of control and you got so much money you can just pay somebody else to do it for you. Whatever those reasons are, Simple Website can take care of you, okay? So that was my case. I didn't know how to even figure out how to use the Squarespace website builder. I couldn't figure it out. And because I'm a little dumb when it comes to technology, believe it or not. And simple website, they just said, hey, look, Joey, we're going to take care of this for you. Okay. You tell us what you want, how you want it, and we're going to put it together for you. And we're going to keep making it or keep doing changes to it until you're happy. And I'm like, cool, that's what I need. And they did that. And you can go see an example of that right now of their work at filterfreeamerica.com. Filterfreeamerica.com. America always intentionally misspelled with a K. Go there, check out the podcast website, take a look around, hit the buttons, make sure everything works, right? Because simplewebsite.us made that website. They did. So there's your example, whatever. I actually used the product, and trust me, it's a tremendous burden lifting off your shoulders if you're somebody like me who just hates doing computer shit. Simple Website made it super easy for me. So again, simplewebsite.us. Now, even if you don't even want to contact them or use their services, you can just go to their website and use some of their free tips and tricks of making the process easier. There's like some videos and things. So it's cool just to go to the website and just look at the free stuff, you know? If anything else, you just get a little bit more information about building a Squarespace website. What else we got going on here? Oh, yes. I want to talk about the release of my album because you guys, you listeners, were a very big part of why it ended up being a successful launch so far. I released my very first stand-up comedy album. What's the name of it? I got it right here in front of me. Neck Tattoos and GEDs, or The Secret to My Success. That's the full name of the album. I released that on February 6th. February 6th, that was my birthday. And I couldn't have been more happy with the release. The album actually jumped up. I think it debuted at number 3 on the iTunes Top 100 Hot Albums. It's just basically a tracking of album sales is what it is. Don't read too much into it. But it debuted at number 3 and then got up to as high as number 2 briefly, then kind of floated around between there and number 9 the rest of the next day. And now I'm probably not even on there anymore. But it's still up for sale, of course. So if you didn't get a copy, you can still go to iTunes and get one. You can still go to a lot of places and get one. Matter of fact, we have just updated the website, the Filter Free America website, that you can now go there, click on, you want to download the album, and that will take you to a separate page that shows you all the different ways you can easily download a copy of my album. It's direct links to iTunes, direct links to Apple Music, to Deezer, whatever the fuck Deezer is. I'm not even sure what that is. Direct link to CD Baby, also Spotify. If you've got Spotify, you can just listen to it on there. So that's all available there for you. I still don't have the function up on the website yet where you can actually buy a physical copy. If you want to buy a physical copy, I mean, you can get one of those CD Baby, but if you want a physical copy, wait till I get that updated. Because once the physical, once I'm able to sell those on the website too, they're going to be cheaper than even CD Baby. It's going to be the lowest price possible to buy a physical copy. And of course, any physical copy that I sell directly from me will have an autograph on there and whatever. And I always throw in a little something extra in the package as well too. That's not a euphemism, but yeah, it is a euphemism too. Whatever. Anything else business-wise? Oh, yeah. This will be up on Monday. So on February 15th, I've got 2 gigs coming up, February 15th and 16th, but 16th sold out, so I'm not even going to tell you about that one. But February 15th, I'm going to be in, what's the name of the city? Oh, God, I forgot the name of the city. Winona, Minnesota. That's what it is. Winona, Minnesota, at the Big Bubs Comedy Show. That's their Great 8 show, 8 comedians for $8 at 8 o'clock. If you want more details, you can go to bigbubscomedy.com, bigbubs, B-U-B-S, comedy.com. And again, that's February 15th, 8 o'clock. It's going to be me and a bunch of other comics. Be a cool deal. So, yeah, that's available for your entertainment choice as well, too. Okay, is that everything? I think that's everything. Business taken care of. Boom. We need a title for the podcast. Oh, we're doing really good. We're up to 10 minutes still. All right, so we're talking to Chad Juettner. We're talking to him about adopting his daughter. So we're just going to keep it simple. This is the story of that's too long. What was this? My daughter's adoption story. There we go. My daughter's adoption story with Chad Juettner. That's the name. My daughter's adoption story with Chad Juettner right here on Filter Free America. Let's go. All right. So start first by taking me back before adopting. Why did you want to adopt a kid?
Well, it wasn't again. It was we had 2 kids, and I couldn't have any more kids.
Okay.
So we had
Did you refuse to have any more kids? Is that like
no.
I refuse to use my semen for good?
No, I physically could not have
Okay.
more kids.
Gotcha.
And we wanted. I says my favorite joke, and actually this is Robert Burrell
Okay.
punched this up for me. I say this almost every time I'm on stage. I we had the 2 boys. My wife, she really wanted a girl, and China didn't. So that's the. Thanks, Robert. That's
funny.
Yeah,
Funny and accurate.
Yeah, I wish I wrote it. But yeah, that's it. We wanted one more, and I couldn't, so China could,
Right.
and that's where we went.
So that takes care of one of my other questions. Is why China? Was that the reason why? What goes into that decision making process?
We looked at a lot of spots. We looked at we went into it with an open mind. Domestic adoption, and any country. And the more we looked into it, when we started looking into domestic stuff, it was like, the thing with domestic adoption, if you find a mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you're so susceptible to getting scammed, and, like anything can happen, up to including like, you're in the hospital, she's giving birth, and she can change her mind like that. And
that's a good question I didn't think of. So is that how that works? Is like if you making a deal like, hey, I'm going to adopt your kid and all that, there's no legal guarantee to keep the kid?
There's stuff, but like there's always from what was explained to us is they always have the option, right? Mm-hmm. Like they've got the right of first refusal. Like they can say, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. Or whatever.
Like they just say, oh, well, I guess I like kids now, I'm going to keep it.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems so uncertain.
Okay.
And expensive. I mean, it wasn't. It didn't. I'm trying to remember. It didn't seem any cheaper to go to a domestic, family or a domestic woman and say, whatever. It was always the same, whatever. And they can ask for everything, and as a prospective adoptive family, you want to be able to give everybody everything. So
right.
It didn't seem as legitimate as anything else. It just seemed so. The uncertainty factor was so high.
What about kids that have already been born? Like I know again. I know nothing about almost everything. I know nothing. But isn't there like housing full of like kids that are just without families?
Yeah, and there is, and it was what we came to was we wanted a little girl that was our little girl,
right?
And anything in the United States, there's always the possibility of the mother, coming and saying, yeah, I want to be part of the life. Mm-hmm. I want to be part of my kid's life. And at the end of it, we were just like, we want something that's, we want a daughter. We want a son or a daughter that's 100%, in no uncertain terms, our son, our daughter.
You don't want the kid turning around like, oh yeah, you guys were great to start, but I've met my other mom now.
I mean, there's always,
I want to go chill with her now.
And that's fine. If a family wants that, that's great. It just didn't seem, I don't know. For us, we wanted to be 100% certain.
Right.
And also we didn't want to be in the position to, if a birth mother came to us, if we adopted locally, domestically, right, and a birth mother came to us and was like, yeah, I want to be part of my kid's life, we also we wouldn't have gotten in the way of that.
It is a difficult situation.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been the kind of people that were going to say, no, right, this is, whatever your past is, we don't want that to be part of our kid's life or anything. Like we didn't want to have to be in a position to have to make that kind of decision,
right,
and it was, We talked about it for a while, where you hear about. I mean, we didn't actually go and see and witness kids in difficult situations domestically, and maybe we should have, but I don't know. It just didn't seem like it didn't seem as our confidence level on that just wasn't as high as if we went somewhere
Am
else.
I right to say this? And I don't know why I'm thinking that it would be this way, but is it just easier to get a kid from a foreign country than
At the time? It was, yeah. At the time, 100%. It was. Well,
because I got to think, just knowing everything the government does here to make everything more complicated and everything, that's got to be a hold up there.
Yes, I think it was easy, kind of easier, but the path seemed a lot clearer. Like point A to point B was a straight line going internationally.
Okay.
Point A to point B locally was not as clear.
Okay.
It was like getting on the freeway versus taking side roads all the way home. It was so simple.
Right.
That, yeah, I mean, if the government, if the United States government or state government, whoever's responsible for this, if they made it that much easier for families, and took away all the obstacles, all the questions that people like us had,
right.
We wouldn't have an issue here. Our issue wasn't, it wasn't racial. It wasn't, we've always wanted an Asian girl. It wasn't any of that shit. It was just, this is certain and it's clear and it's, there's no ambiguity involved.
Gotcha. Well, then why? What is the country of origin? Was that just an ease thing too for
No,
Chinese?
We looked all over the place. We were open to.
How about that? Is it? I'm sorry, I'm just kind of questions jumping in my head. Can you adopt a kid just from any country you want to? Is there is there any cut you can't bring any of this from that country?
No,
there's a ban on those babies.
There was some sort of we were presented a list of 10 countries, and it was Russia, Colombia, Brazil, Ecuador, I think was in there. Korea, South Korea, China. That might have been it. I don't know. There might have been a couple more.
What about Ireland? Can you get a little redhead kid if you want one? Can you get one of those?
I would have loved a little Irish bastard.
Get your ginger ass in the car.
Little fucking Lucky Charm. I would have loved that.
Put on this all green outfit.
Just give him a little noogie for good luck on the way to work. That would have been great. No, it was we had a list, and every country had its pros and cons. So Russia, right? You adopt a kid from Russia, and it was you had to go there for 2 weeks, visit with the orphanage, visit with all these different agencies, and then go home with no kid, right? And then come back
all on your dime.
On your dime. Yeah, everything's on your dime. There's no, you're all you're paying for everything yourself.
Right.
So you'd go there for 2 weeks, you'd hang out, you'd visit the orphanage, you'd get interviewed by
KGB.
It might have been KGB. I don't know. There was a state agency involved that would talk to you first, and then you didn't.
That's why you don't adopt kids over 5, because those are all spies over 5. Anything under 5, they're too dumb. They run the equipment. So
our daughter, we got her when she was 3. I'm not convinced yet that she's not a Chinese spy. I think she's still. I mean, she's so fucking sneaky.
She's waiting for the signal. That's all it is. It's gonna come across an anime cartoon one night. It's like, okay, kill your parents. All right, let's go.
Exactly. We lock our door. I'm not kidding you. We actually do lock. Well, not when we go to bed, but when we leave the house.
Right.
She's got a little issue with stealing my wife's makeup. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh God, she's a fucking thief. I love her. She's so great, but absolutely don't trust her. No, she. So we looked at Russia. Russia was. You would have had to have gone. So you take one trip for 2 weeks. You come back, no kid, and then they call you, and then you go back for another 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And at the time, I was working full time. I couldn't take off for a month. And
just
my
to go
wife.
hang out in Russia. Jesus.
Yeah, and my wife, she's not, she's she's a little bashful, so she's not going to go over there for a month by herself, you know.
Right.
So Russia was like right away. Russia was out. We were not interested. All of the South American adoptions involved like a variable amount of money, and it was weird because like it was like, okay, so you have to. They didn't call it a bribe, but they were like, you have to give this amount of money between this amount and this amount to these people.
And these people, are these the families, or are these just the
it might
agencies?
be the families, it might be the agencies, it might be whoever.
God.
And it was so strange to us. I'm like, well, can't you just tell, like, can you put like, what are the, like, I was thinking of it in terms of, okay, there's got to be like a filing fee and, you know, all these different fees. And they're like, no. It's not like that. It's this guy gets this much, this guy gets about this much. Like, all right. So that was the case in South America. South Korea, the waiting list was just like it was so long.
That's where my girlfriend got adopted from. She's
pretty
and
good. I think
high demand.
She's what?
She's pretty good too. High demand over there.
Yeah. It's very
really
high
good
demand.
models.
And I think it's
they're like the Cadillac of kids.
Yeah.
So.
That's the that is the Lexus brand of adoption. I think is South Korean. But like we would have gone. I mean, we were, you know, after hearing about South America, after hearing about Russia, all of that just seemed, I don't know, just it seemed strange to us.
Right.
And I don't know if that plays into why you don't see a lot of, you know, I mean, I know a handful of people that are adopted from South America. I know a handful of people that are adopted from Russia.
I've never met anybody with a Russian kid. That would freak me the fuck out. I have nothing against Russians, but I'd be like, look at this little fucking communist. What are you doing? This little communist, this little fucking guy.
I don't know. They, well, through the adoption agency afterwards, we met like some of the other families that adopted from various countries. And there was a couple of families, I think, that adopted from Russia.
Did you notice any like weird trends in the parents based on associated with what they adopted, like all the Russian kids, their parents were like really into vodka or, you know, something like that?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like anybody. I don't know. Every some of the family. I mean, all of the families seemed.
Because I always think like especially here in Minnesota, like the parents would be like, let me go get me one of those hockey playing Russian kids.
Yeah,
let me bring them over here.
Valchek or something.
Yeah,
Drago. I would have loved to adopt a little Drago. Just
okay. Well, we think this is a good deal, but let me see your slap shot. Let me see what you got.
Yeah, just wake up in the morning and have your kids say, "I will break you." I'm like, God damn it! I fucking hope so.
Right?
No, I don't. I don't know. All the families seemed relatively normal. Everybody's fine. I actually, one of the families that adopted from China, I had worked with a dude. And I completely forgot it, but I worked with them in the late 90s, and now they were adopting kids. And I don't know, they're all just, you know, whatever problems they have, you know, I didn't notice any trend. Well, the only trend I knew, they were all white.
Right.
I don't know if that's I don't want to get in trouble for that, but it was always a little weird to me. Like
I've known other, like a girl I used to date back home. Like she was a foster kid, you know, and grew up in the foster system. And, she was raised by like a black family, right?
White girl, black family?
Well, she was black, but it was a black family too. But you know, you don't see that as much. I don't know.
I don't know. I can't. I don't know. Right. I think it was, but like 100% white people, and I don't know. It'd be weird to see like. In 50 years, when we're subservient to China, it'd be weird to see Chinese people coming over and adopting white kids and bringing them back to China for sure. You know,
that means you automatically get like a higher ranking within the slaves once you become slaves to China because you've already raised one of their kids. So
yeah, I don't
technically.
I don't know. But it's a God. Thanks for the green belt. This is
no problem.
I don't. It's the one, and I'm just. Not making any assumptions. I'm not saying anything. I'm just like the one thing everybody had in common.
It's a free thought zone, man.
Yeah, man.
Everybody understands what you're just thinking.
100% white folk. 100% white folk, all suburban. Like no.
So there's nothing to that thing that some people claim that's like, oh, you guys just want to own some minority kids. That's all you guys want to do.
We didn't. I don't.
Got one of every color. Look at you, Angelina Jolie. Come here, just get them.
Goodness gracious. I don't want to get in trouble, but like there might be, I don't know. I certainly don't. My daughter owns me. So that is 1000% not the case in our situation.
Right.
She absolutely like, yeah.
She's your kid. That's what it is.
She's my kid. But you have boys, and I mean, you lose a boy, yeah. What the fuck? I'll make whatever. My little girl is. I hope my boys aren't listening to that. I love you both, but if I lost one of you,
That's how I am with my dogs. I'd probably put my boy dog down before I'd put my girl dog down. I don't know. Don't know if that carries over, but
I mean, boys are like toes. You lose a toe, yeah, it's a bummer. It's a huge fucking
I
bummer.
walk with a limp now. It's good now.
Yeah, daughters are like fingers.
You can't.
Seems to hurt a little bit more if you
Like
lose
a thumb, then you can't
Yeah,
leave your hand.
yeah.
So what about the cost then? What for China specific? What was
It
there?
was I will say expensive.
Okay.
And this is 2008.
Now, I'm joking, but I'm not joking. Is there a value? Because, and we'll talk about this. Your girl had a known medical condition.
Yeah, they don't give.
Is
a
there
fuck.
like?
It's the same.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
and that was one of the.
It's not like a used car lot. Like, this one's got a few extra miles on it.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. That wasn't the deal at all. It was and the nice thing about Chinese adoption when we did it, and I don't know, like somebody else, we trusted our agency, right? Like 100%. And everything that I'm saying is what we learned through our agency. So if I'm saying something and somebody else adopted a
the
kid,
agency's over there, right? It's not like a base
well,
here?
our agency works with their agency, right?
Okay.
So there's an American side and a Chinese side.
And it's an American agency, government agency specifically for international adoptions?
It wasn't government specific. It was actually a Christian organization.
Okay.
But everything that I learned through the agency, and it could be like I could be saying something, and somebody else could have adopted through a different agency, and they might be listening to this and saying like, oh, that's absolutely bullshit. Well, I don't know, because I trusted the people that we went through, and we had from what we got, the Chinese process was very, very rigid, and like what I was saying earlier about variable costs and trips to Russia and all this different stuff. China was, okay, you give us this amount of money, you go here, done. You go home. That's it.
One
like
trip.
that was, yeah.
Stop,
One trip,
shop.
10 days. It was, and everything was like, okay, you give the government gets this much, the orphanage get this much. You go down south, you finalize it, you go to the U.S. Embassy, and you go home. Like, it was so straightforward.
What about background checks for the parents? Is there any kind of verification process?
We had to go through a whole.
Like you're not like opening up an iPhone factory or something at home. And...
Yeah, we had to go through a whole thing. Yeah, it was fairly rigid, and I don't know what would happen if we had any kind of criminal background. I mean, I've got a couple of speeding tickets, and that's it.
Just give you a slower kid then.
Yeah,
it's punishment.
Yeah, we had no issues with any of that. But they did. I mean, they did a full background check, and we had.
So it's not like just anybody can just all willy nilly can just go up there and just snatch a kid. That's why I was like, there's something,
We had God. Now that you mention it, like I completely forgot about this. But we had we had to get references from our neighbors. We had to have our neighbors write like a 2-page. Yeah, here's why they're good people. And the thing that sucked is I hate my neighbors. Like I can't stand. I've got like a guy next door. I enjoy him, right? Like my next door neighbor, he's fine. But everybody else, I never got to know my neighbors.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, we need you to, your neighbors need to do this and this. So we had to be like,
that's kind of
a little fake and be like, yeah, can you blah blah blah? We're gonna, whatever. And so we got that, and that was fine. But then we had to get
just like you don't get a neighbor like me who just hates kids. I'm like, oh, no, fuck those people. Don't give them a kid over there.
Yeah, I would have loved to see your thing, but it was we had to get shit from our neighbors. They had to actually write like they had to do homework.
Uh-huh.
And I think we got 2 of them, and the one side was they were fine with it, like they liked us, but everybody else, like our neighborhood is a little bit older than us, and it was super uncomfortable because, can you you don't like us, we don't like you, but can you do this fucking thing for us? And
That is awkward.
yeah,
What a
it was
weird
so
conversation.
it was so awkward.
Is it mostly like a white area too? Is it?
Yeah, our neighborhood is.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. So just as long as you didn't adopt a black kid, you'd have been okay. Then. I mean, that would probably.
They were. I feel like one of
Well,
them was
what
like,
color is he? Well,
yeah, what's my property value going to do with this kid? Yeah, no, it was fine. There were that wasn't the case at all.
Okay.
But yeah, they were. We had to get references from the neighbors, and they wrote a letter. We had to get documentation from the local police department saying that we were upstanding citizens.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I kind of forgot about it, but now, yeah, like it was a shit ton of. We had to do a shit ton of it, and then the agency did some of it themselves to make sure we weren't just making it up.
Any kind of like test, like parenting test, like don't
we
give your
had-
baby whiskey, that kind of thing.
Well, we now we had there was a woman that came to our house, I think 2 or 3 different times to talk to us, and then talk to Nate and Sam, our kids. And that was, I don't know, it's just strange.
Right.
I wasn't comfortable with it.
Because it's not like you're owning a person, but you're kind of like buying a person. You
You
know,
are
kind of.
you're buying,
So
you're
it's-
kind of buying, yeah, you're buying a soul, and then I don't know. It was just, I don't know. The process of it, like we knew we were good parents. We already had 2 really good boys.
Look, they didn't even die. Look at them. They're right
yeah,
there.
well, they're still here. You
They're
know,
still breathing.
the
That
one
one
of them, the one of them's a little blinky, but like they're fucking fine. It's, I don't know. It was I don't know. The whole, like, everything about the process made me uncomfortable.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like choosing the country.
That's an intense examination of you.
It was super intense. And then it was like, at one point I'm like, well, should we get a black? We don't want to be racist. Should we get a black one? I don't know. I don't fucking
It's
know.
the ultimate
I don't
virtue
wanna
signal
be,
is to raise your kid.
yeah, like I'm not racist. I've got a black kid. I don't know. We were just everything about it was just so, I don't know. It wouldn't stand up to social justice norms today, for
Right.
damn sure.
Really?
I don't know. It just seemed like you were picking.
You're probably right. You're probably right, because there would be somebody that would overlook the huge benefit that you're providing for this child that definitely wouldn't have the same opportunity.
It just.
And look at that as some kind of cultural appropriation to the extreme.
Oh well, no. My daughter is appropriating my culture like fucking hardcore. All right, her Toby Keith habit is off the chain.
What is it with Asians and country music? My girlfriend is South Korean. Loves country to like Keith Urban. She would cheat on me with Keith Urban if she had the opportunity to do that. I'm pretty sure.
Oh sure.
Easily.
I mean, and you can't be mad. I mean, Keith Urban's he's a good looking fella.
What is it with Asian? I know a lot of Asian chicks that are into country music. That's so weird.
If you're gonna go American, go to the extreme. I mean,
guess
that's
so.
as American as you get, right?
I guess. Well, Keith Urban's actually from Australia, so it's a weird deal.
I have no idea.
It's a weird deal.
I mean, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was like, it was part of it was like we didn't want to feel, I didn't want to feel guilty about anything to do with we just wanted a kid, right? Like that's all we wanted. We wanted a kid, and we didn't want all of the judgment, and we didn't want all of the, whatever else. We just wanted a child, and
Pull
and
that
that's
mic a little bit to you.
it. Yeah, all right, here we go.
There you go.
But that's it. We just wanted a child, and we didn't want anybody to judge us. We didn't want anything else. Just we would love to raise one more kid, and do the best that we can with it.
So tell me about this part then. Now, so before you told me you started around 2005 was when you were thinking about it, and 2008 was when you actually made the adoption.
Yeah.
So, and kind of describe the process of deciding on which kid you're going to take, and also mention why you went to the special needs kids.
So we went when we finally settled on China. You get put on a waiting list, and I think when we said 2005 when we were on the waiting list, when we first got on there, it was I think they told us like it might be up to 10 months.
Okay.
Right. And Now you got to think 2005, adopting a Chinese baby was like 5-10 years earlier. The wait time to adopt, from getting approved, from getting all your paperwork in, to actually going over to China and getting meeting your kid, was like, I think at one point it got to be like 3 months, right? From, okay, you got all your stuff done. Now you're on a plane, you're going to Beijing, you're going to go to whatever province your kid's at, and you're going to meet them. That used to be 3 months. By the time we got, they said it was 9 months. What actually happened though was it took, it ended up being like 2 years, right? And after 2 years, we still didn't have a kid. Like we were still on the waiting list, but we had no word, right? And so after 2 years, we started talking.
You haven't had. They didn't say here's some kids to choose from. They just had no options.
No,
for you at the
yeah,
time.
just
Okay.
absolutely zero. And so
now you were saying that was this. You said this kind of. Well, that's the only way to say it. Supply and demand was an issue. Was this?
Yeah. So it used to be, and I don't know I'm not 100% sure on the politics, but the one child rule in China is what made China the destination, like the surefire destination for adopting kids.
And for people who don't know, that's basically you can have one
Yeah, China,
kid unless you have a boy. You can only have the one, or if you had a girl, you could automatically have a second one, something like that.
I think at one point it was just you got one.
Okay.
And then
and of course the boys were more desirable, so that's why more Asian girls were being.
Yep. Okay. So it was So there was a period in time where like their population problem was such a big deal that they just said, okay, everybody gets one kid, and then the government
crazy,
would.
China's fucking huge, man.
It is a large country. It is a big boned country, and
they got billions though. Is it over 2 billion now, or is it just a billion?
Man, I remember when I was in high school.
I remember the word billion when I was in high school.
Yeah, in the early '90s, it was billion. There was a billion thrown out,
right. And
it might be two. They might be up to 2 bills now. I don't know, but they had this one child policy, and if I remember right, like the penalty if you had 2 kids was like it was just a tax thing, right? Like if you had 2 kids, they taxed the fuck out of you. That's like crazy. To the point where if
having a kid wasn't bad enough.
Yeah.
No, you don't get an allowance. There's your allowance. Went to the tax man.
So I think that was it. I think it was like it was some sort of tax thing or whatever. Like the government didn't come to your house and take the other kid and whatever. And so right around early 2000s, mid 2000s, their economy started to change and people started and then the government actually had this, like they recognized the problem. Where like, okay, people are just keeping male children, and there's a crisis, there's a huge crisis over there. So they actually had.
I wonder how long it took them to figure that one out. Like, it
happened pretty
bunch
quick.
Of guys.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of.
We're gonna have a problem here in a second.
It's like the entire country of China for half a decade looked like
teenage
Sneaky
boys
Pete.
walking
It
around.
looked like Sneaky Pete's in downtown. Like, oh man, it's just a bunch of fucking dudes here. It's a bunch of dudes in Axe body spray. This is fucking disgusting. And so so they had the Sneaky Pete problem, and and so they the government actually put out an ad campaign. I think Sneaky Pete's did this too. Like, we want to get more chicks,
right?
And they did this thing where like they said, okay, keep your. I forget exactly what the specific campaign was, but it was like, girls are all right, and
It's hilarious.
yeah. Girls are just fine. Like, who knew?
Right?
This is. I wish. I don't know. This. Yeah, I don't know. Not gonna say much to that. I feel like I get in a lot of trouble for.
I'm pretty sure I've scared off anybody that would get mad about anything you say, but feel free to.
I don't know. I don't know. I think. But yeah, so China did this thing where like, hey, girls are all right. You can, why don't you keep a girl around?
Sounds like a country song. Girls are all right. You're almost as good as boys are.
Yeah, quit drowning your girls. Whatever. I don't know what the fuck they did.
Right.
But so they did this thing where they had this ad campaign. Families were keeping their they were just dealing with the repercussions of the one child policy.
Right.
But you literally couldn't, like, the wait time went from 3 months in the mid '90s was even 3 months to right around 9 months when we signed up.
Right.
And then by the time we signed up, the gap just got bigger and bigger. So we had waited 2 years.
Jeez.
And after 2 years, we were like, I don't know, like, do we switch? Like, do we try a different country? Do we, what do we do? And then our agency said, well, we could put you on the special needs list. Like you guys could, if you were, you could do the same thing, adopt from China, but just get a kid with special needs. And the special needs, it was a very broad definition of special needs. And so we said, yeah, of course. I mean, we're absolutely.
Explain that broad definition.
I mean, it was anything from like somebody with a mild hearing impairment to, like kids with missing limbs and, blind kids, blind, deaf, both. There was a lot of them. And so we said, yeah, we'll do that. And then once we did that, within a few months, we started getting, they'd send you a dossier. And we initially, like, we got them, I think we got like one or two.
Okay.
And it was obvious, like things that like we were just not equipped to handle. Like we had one that was, the poor kid was blind and deaf. And my wife, she's got a hearing problem. So we're like, okay, we can't deal with sensory issues.
Okay.
And then we got one, and I think it was like, there was some weird, they had a respiratory issue. I don't know specifically what it was, but it was, I forget what it was, but at that point we said, okay, we can't, like, we're not equipped to evaluate what this is. So we looked around, and it turned out the U of M had a international adoption like group, the U of M hospital in Minneapolis. So we did this thing where like we donated money to the U of M, and we donated kind of a lot of money to get our dossiers evaluated by their, like, the good doctors at the U of M.
Oh, cool.
Which was a really cool thing. And it helped us a lot. And
Were those, did you find out after the fact or whatever, were they very legit and honest within the information provided as far as conditions?
It gets interesting because, like, some of, so the Chinese adoption, the dossier that you get comes from the provinces, right? Like, it's not always just like the best hospital in Beijing evaluating these kids that were at the orphanage. It was,
so they might be limited in what they can do.
Their
medically
resources are very limited. Yeah. So they did the best with what they could.
Gotcha.
But you'd get these things, and the U of M doctors would look at it, and they would know. I mean, they've seen, we're not the first family to do this. They'd seen, okay, well, this is from this province. This, this was what this might mean. We turned down, gosh, I think we turned down like 4 or 5 kids. I think that we just didn't feel like we could handle.
That's right. I wonder what do the kids know when they're being considered? Is it like
God, I hope.
Like, oh man, we got one.
I hope
we got one on the hook.
Because what happened with our daughter was even a little bit more heartbreaking than the ones we declined. Because once we got to when they sent us the dossier for our daughter, we brought it to the doctors at U of M, and they said, okay, well, she's got she needs to be evaluated by a cardiologist. And so we brought it to, so they brought it to their cardiologist.
So they had like chest x-rays and stuff like that?
From China, they had chest x-rays.
Okay.
But they weren't good chest x-rays.
Okay.
They were
inferior equipment maybe or something?
Yeah. So they didn't have like an MRI machine or anything like that. They just had x-rays. Okay. Which for for heart issues, it's just not enough.
Right. And
so we got a U of M doctor, his name's Dr. Bass, called me and said, now I forget, my wife was not, she called me on a Friday. So when you get a dossier, you got like 12 hours to say yes or no before they pass it on to the next family. I think it was like 12 hours. Something like that.
That's a huge decision to make in 12 hours.
Yeah. And so, there was so we got our daughter, we got her dossier, and so we got it. I sent it to the U of M right away, And my wife, I forget what the heck she was. She was out, and we had to talk about it over the phone a little bit. And she came home, and the doctor looked at it, and he said, he essentially said, like, listen, your daughter's got a very from what I can see from the stuff that I have in front of me, she's got a very severe, she's got a complex congenital heart defect. And I said, okay, I don't like that sounds like a lot of words. I don't know what that means.
Right.
And he said, well, I mean, if this goes untreated, she might only live, another 2-3 years.
Holy fuck.
And I was like, well, okay, so what happens then? So we bring her home, we bring her over here, you fix her. And he goes, well, no. It's not that simple. Like what I see right now, I don't think we can fix. And so I was like, you don't think or you don't know? And he's like, I don't know. I don't think we can fix it. I mean, it was very uncertain. And so me and my wife.
And that was mainly because he just didn't have the diagnostic
we didn't know
that he needed to evaluate?
At the time, we didn't know that he didn't. I mean, that wasn't well explained to us. We thought, like, she was, they had everything, all the stuff. And so the doctor had looked at it and he's like, yeah, man, we don't. He was a doctor. He didn't say, yeah, man. But he was like, we just don't know. It just doesn't look like a thing that we can deal with. We can do our best. We can make her comfortable. We can, probably prolong her life, and give her, a better life than what she would have over in the orphanage there. Because they're not going to do anything for her there. You got to understand that if she stays there, they're not going to do anything. And she was 3 years old at the time. And he also said, I don't know if he said this or if the agency said this, but at 3 years old, and she had been there since she was a year old.
Okay.
So they said, like, so she's lived in the orphanage for 2 years. So we've been giving her packet to families every day for 2 years. And everybody said no. And so me and my wife finally, we were talking about it. We're like, shit, I don't know. I mean, what do you do? I mean, and at that point it had been, we'd seen, I don't know, half a dozen kids, 4 or 5. I forget what the number was. And we finally just said, okay, we're going to do it and see what happens. And if anything, we're going to bring this little girl over here, take her to Disneyland and, give her whatever life we can and whatever time.
Whatever existence is going to be, she's going to have the best one she can have.
Yeah. And we said, I mean, it's going to be, it could be heartbreaking. It could be, this could be a really bad thing for us, but let's just try it. Well, I mean, I take that back. We never said it could be a bad thing. We were just like, we were ready for the heartbreak. We were ready for whatever that was. And we were ready.
Regardless, you knew it was going to be more difficult than just a kid with no issues. You knew that.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a lot, and we knew that it was going to be. We knew that there was a very strong chance of it just being, we're bringing a little girl over here and doing whatever we can for her. So we did that. We went over there, and we went. We left 2008. We went over and got her, and it was weird because, like, by the time when we started looking, she was born when we started looking. When we went over there, that's when we got her. Can we do I gotta.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll just ramble while
all right.
while you're doing that. He's gonna go take
a couple of grain belts.
Take a leak and get that going there. What can I plug in the meantime while you're here? Good listeners, make sure that you are taking time to rate and review this podcast. I don't remind you guys enough about that, but it's so hugely important for podcasters. Try to plug something in here as I'm talking to you. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. That's not going to die on me. As podcasters, to grow our audience is getting those rates and reviews, especially. I mean, it counts for whatever podcast outlet that you're using to listen to the show. But most importantly, iTunes. If you are an iTunes listener and you're listening to this podcast right now, please press pause, or just, I don't even know if you have to press pause, but whatever. Go to where you can rate and review the Filter Free America podcast. Give us a 5-star rating. Write a little little review on there. I was like, I really like listening to this podcast while I'm pooping. It really helps me poop. Joey's voice is very soothing. It allows my bowels to loosen, and it just makes the whole process much easier. Something like that. And that will help me grow the audience, get more listeners in here, and of course, more listeners are good, right? It's going to strengthen the podcast by growing the podcast's reach. So yeah, definitely do that. But whatever you're on, if you're listening to Stitcher, if you're listening to on Podbean or whatever, make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're rating and reviewing whatever the process is. If it's stars, if it's hearts, if it's I don't know, maybe you're listening to some weird obscure podcast platform that like it's like chickens, like 5 chickens means a good podcast. Whatever it is, do that. Rate and review the podcast. All right, now Chad's back. He's freshly urinated.
Oh gosh,
You feel good?
I tell you what, I'm 40 years old.
What was that joke? Is that you don't buy beer, you rent it? Is that how it goes? It just goes in there and flushes out the system.
I just filter out the good stuff.
Pass me one of those. I haven't had a grain belt in a while. I want to have one of those.
There you go. Sir. It's terrific.
Talking about kids drinking beer.
Yeah, I've been drinking
that's
it.
Good.
Yeah, it's terrific. And my thing with this stuff is like, I know exactly how many grain belts I can have in a given amount of time. Like
right.
if you time box me, I'm like, all right, that is 6 or 7 grain belts worth of time before I need to call an Uber or my wife or whoever to come get me. So that's why I stick to this. Like we've got at my office, we have a brew pub literally in our parking lot. Able Brewing is in our parking lot, and once in a while we'll go down there, and I'll have like 1 or 2 other things. I'm like, God damn it, this is
your beer mask off because you don't know how to drink.
It's my calculations are all different.
What's the alcohol in these things?
I know it's only like 4.7.
4.7.
Is it 4.7?
Yeah, this one is at least.
All right. Yeah, it's not much. I mean, you go to Able, you go to Indeed, you're drinking a beer that's 12% alcohol. It's
not garbagey tasting like Budweiser is. Budweiser tastes so fucking blech.
Yeah, but Budweiser's, I'm not a fan. This, it's got a nice flavor.
It's crisp.
Yeah.
It's turned into a brewcast.
I think it's absolutely perfect. And actually, it was rated the #1 regional beer in all of America.
Wow.
Everywhere. So
that's saying a lot as many beers we got here.
I like it.
So you made the decision together? Is that the 12-hour window?
Pretty much together, yeah. Okay. So I think I slipped in a yes before I got a full thumbs up from my wife. But like together we kind of said, yeah, we're going to like do whatever we can. That was a shitty time for a bathroom break, but
that's right.
It was so uncertain because Dr. Bass, and he was literally one of the leading pediatric cardiologists in the country.
So his opinion carries weight. So,
yes, yeah. And he was telling us, I don't know. I mean, like his opinion was.
Isn't that all doctors though? They're so scary now that
they hedge their bets a lot. But he was a little bit more like on the fence of like, or on the side of like, maybe lead towards no, because I don't think we can help her. And we just said, okay, well, we're going to do what we can. And we went over there. And going over there was, that was a whole different experience for us because, that was the first time I'd traveled out of the country.
So let's break that down a little bit. So you fly over there, right?
Yeah. So we went.
It's like you immediately go to the place?
Well, so typically you fly into, there's usually 3 stops, right? For a Chinese adoption, you fly into Beijing, and they build in like a couple of days for you to just hang out in Beijing and see, be a tourist, get acclimated to being in China. And then,
is that like a requirement by the tourism board?
Yeah,
like, hey, you got to hang out here and see how great it is.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a tourism board, but it is like the agency made it sound like everybody has to do that, right? Okay. Most people from Beijing, they go to whatever province your kid is in, right? So it's, it'd be like flying into New York. Okay, you spend a couple of days in New York, and now you're going to Kentucky or whatever. So most people go to Beijing and then the Chinese version of Kentucky, which I can't imagine.
That sounds like the worst place of China.
It sounds, yeah, yeah. We were lucky though. Our kid was actually in Beijing. She was in. We flew into Beijing, and she was actually in. She was like 45 minutes away from where we were staying in Beijing. So we stayed in Beijing.
I guess there's probably some kids that are like in some really remote areas of China that you have to
almost all of them are
cut
in
your
really
way through the
remote
jungle
areas.
to get there.
Yeah, yeah. Almost all of the kids are in remote areas of China.
Holy cow.
So when you go over there, so we flew into Beijing. We actually stayed. It's not called it felt like Broadway Avenue, but it was. We were like 2 kilometers south of Tiananmen Square. In Beijing, there's a place called the World Trade Center in Beijing. Not big towers. It was just, whatever.
Right.
Our hotel was just 1 block north of that. And so we went there. So you fly in, we stop in Tokyo and then go to Beijing. And ours was unique because our daughter was actually there. And I thought when we left, I had a wad of cash because you needed, it was like $10,000 $10,000 American dollars that you needed to convert into Chinese currency, and they only accepted cash. Like you don't put it on your fucking credit card. You don't have any other. You just give them actual cash.
That would be cool because I imagine you get a lot of miles for kids.
Yeah. I can't imagine the Amex rewards for a kid. But yeah, we put it on. So we fly into Beijing, right? And the next morning we're going to get our kid, right? Like we didn't have the little buffer, the time to get acclimated.
So do you know this? Does she know? She was 3.
She was 3.
So she's at least can remember some things and know some stuff. Does she know you're coming at that point?
I don't know if she knew. I honestly don't. But what we did wrong is we didn't have. So we got to the hotel at like 11 o'clock at night. It was late at night, and then we were leaving at 7 a.m. the next morning. Well, I only had $10,000 on me, and we have you get assigned. You get a guide. One person from the agency on the Chinese side that knows that, she arranges a driver, and then she comes with you to the orphanage. She knows everybody at the orphanage, and then she just arranges everything. And then she hangs out with you for a few days afterwards. Well,
is that an evaluation still?
I don't think it's an evaluation. I think at that point you're all set. Like,
okay.
And short of murdering somebody, and even then, short of murdering an important somebody, like you're not.
I was gonna say because China murders people.
Yeah,
a lot.
You're not going to be denied, adopting your child. Well, since ours was a little different. Like I called her that night. I'm like, hey, her name was Tu. Where can I exchange my money for Chinese money? She said, oh, go to the hotel lobby, right? Like they have it there. And I went to the hotel lobby and they're like, oh, we just did it. We don't have any money left. I'm like, we don't have it. They don't have any money left. They ran out of yuan.
Okay.
YUAN, not JUAN. That'd be weird.
Right.
But,
they have to adopt their wands. Those
yeah.
wands, they have to bring those in special.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know. Like I was looking for a Cub Foods with a TCF in front. I was wandering around that morning, and I'm like panicking because like it's like 6 a.m. We're leaving in an hour and a half, and I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, oh, don't worry about it. I've got some money. I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay.
She's like, just give me your money. I have enough to cover you. And I'm like, are you fucking with me? Right? Because it felt like so shady. I was like, and I'm like, just tentatively giving her money. She's like, and she's just whipping. She had this big little drug money, like a circle of Chinese currency, and like she covered it. I'm like, wow, that's fucking amazing. Yeah. And so she covered it. She took care of everything, and it didn't. I don't know. It sounded weird, but she got it taken care of.
Did she give you the right exchange? She didn't try to fuck you over?
As far as I know, yeah. I didn't have to take out any more. Thank God, because there wasn't a Wells Fargo ATM there.
Right.
I imagine the ATM fees would have been ridiculous. So, yeah. So we got her, and We
So, well, take me back now. When you're going there, you go to it's an orphanage, right?
mhm.
Tell me the condition. Give me the
It was so
boots on the ground look and feel.
it was uh it, I don't know. So we left our hotel, and this is the weird thing. So she was in Beijing.
Mhm.
We left our hotel, and this is the thing where like my scale got so fucked up when I went to China.
How big is Beijing? It's big, right?
It's what I'm trying to say is like it was like being in downtown Minneapolis, with, 30, 40, 50-story buildings,
Mhm.
right? Like we got in our car, drove for literally like 40 minutes. And that size building was just common the entire drive. Like you can't imagine how, like, it was just massive.
Big as New York? Bigger than New York?
I want to say way bigger than New York.
No shit.
Way bigger than New York. I mean,
I heard it was a big city, but I didn't have a fucking clue.
yeah, me and my wife were just in New York, and I was like, we were looking around, and we're like, yeah, this is tiny compared to like,
No shit.
yeah, and
Okay.
but it's not. It's different though, because it's not like zoning in China doesn't seem to be the same as America, because like you'll have like a 40-story office building next to a 50-story like residential apartment thing, and like, well, and 10 years ago in Minneapolis that wasn't really a thing. I mean,
Mhm.
it's more of a thing now, but like just everything there just seems so massive, so much bigger than I could have imagined. And yeah, I think we drove 35 minutes, and it was all just huge buildings. And in the last 5 minutes, it actually is kind of like tampered down a little bit, but not, like it was more like after.
Everything modern conditions too, you say? Is that all?
I would say most of the buildings look like they were built within the last 20 years,
Okay.
maybe 20, 25 years. I don't know.
Was there excuse me, was there a sense of I guess organization to the society where you're at there? I just like to
it
get
looked chaotic to me.
okay.
I mean, I
I've
don't
heard
know.
so many different stories
It
about
was,
that.
yeah, it was, and like I said, I'd never been out of the country before.
Packed
and,
with people on the streets and sidewalks. I
oh God,
assume?
yeah.
Okay.
It was people and bicycles everywhere. That was a new experience for me. Like before, bicycles were cool in Minneapolis. China had it down pat. Like everybody. It seemed like that was bicycle first, then car if you can. But it was amazing. I mean,
Were you driving yourself, or did you?
We had a
driver?
guy. Yeah,
Okay.
we had a guy that drove us everywhere. And every day that we were there, even after we got the kid, we were assigned a driver, and he would, like, they'd have an agenda. They asked us at one point, is there anything specific you want to see? We're like, we don't care, whatever, just give us, So most of the time we were there, they had things for us to do, and then one day that we were there in Beijing, or 1 or 2 days, we had free time. We could do whatever we wanted. So, yeah, I think it was the last 2 days. We went to the Beijing Zoo. We went to Tiananmen Square. The palace was right across the street. It was cool. It was
Did
really
you
cool.
get a picture in Tiananmen Square of yourself, like holding up an imaginary tank?
No,
Just
absolutely not.
Shoe in a grain belt bottle. Stop.
I wish, man. There was guards everywhere in Tiananmen Square. Like it was the presence. Like there was a military presence there,
Oh shit.
and it was not ambiguous. Like it was
Palatable. It was
yeah,
like there.
yeah. It was like, yeah, you're not gonna fuck around. And then Chairman Mao is still on display in the middle of Tiananmen Square in a building, right? And there was we were gonna see, like, and the line was literally just wrapped around twice around the building. Like, fuck it, we don't. I mean,
Are these tourists, or are these like Chinese
it's
people
all
like
Chinese
coming
people, yeah,
paying their respects?
yeah, all Chinese people all coming to pay their respects.
Fuck.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was different. I mean, it was. I'll just say it was different. I mean, it would, going into it, knowing what we know about what happened there, I don't know that, I don't know what story they got, or I don't even know whose story's right. Who the
Right.
fuck knows? But yeah, it was a surreal experience. It was gorgeous. It was
Right.
absolutely beautiful. I mean, the building, the architecture there, everything was just absolutely stunning. And
I love when they take like the old style, classic, Asian influenced architecture and then mix it in with like modern buildings.
oh yeah,
and
you
you
should
see-
look up the, I think it was called the CCTV building
Is that really tall double tower?
It looks like an
I've seen some pictures.
It's like if MC Escher like did a building, that's what that place looks like. Because
Holy
it's like this weird shape. It's like two towers, and then they come out and in. It literally looks like an MC Escher painting, but in architecture. Like it was so,
Interesting.
and that building was like 4 or 5 blocks away from our hotel, and I walked by it like 2 or 3 times. Just by my wife and daughter would nap, and I'd take off and I'd just go walk around Beijing, and that was the one place I kept being drawn to because it was so fucking cool. It was such a weird. It was just being finished. It was just getting finished when we were there, and it's open now. But it's there. It's the Chinese television, whatever the state television is there. That was their headquarters, and it was just absolutely. I mean, you got to look it up. It's absolutely amazing.
Oh wow. Excuse me.
But yeah, being in Beijing, I mean, it was absolutely terrific. I mean, it was great. The first level of our hotel, on one corner of the block was a McDonald's,
Okay.
and then right next to it was a across the street was a KFC, and then there was a Pizza Hut, and that's all. My wife's palate isn't as adventurous as, well, mine isn't either. But so we ate Pizza Hut, McDonald's, and KFC the entire time we were in Beijing. One night we went and treated ourselves to the Hard Rock Cafe in Beijing.
All right.
But it was, I wanted, like, I'd psyched myself up for, like, you know, going down a weird alley and getting some street food and shit.
Right.
Fuck it, no.
It
was
no puppy on a stick.
no. Well, crickets were a big thing. Like that was.
See, I'd eat the shit out of some crickets, man.
I wanted to try.
I'm all for that.
We just weren't. I mean, I don't know. We weren't. I don't know. Some of them didn't feel as safe. Some of them, I don't know. It just felt like we could just take a wrong turn and not figure out our way back. You know, the nights that we were by ourselves.
What about general human to human contact? Is the population? I know culturally, it's everything's in a rush and it's very.
Well, the biggest thing culturally that I noticed is that Chinese, it just isn't a thing to stand in line, right? Okay. Like it is literally every man for himself. So they don't do lines. So like the time that we went to the Beijing Zoo.
Oh, those videos on YouTube of them going in and out of subways is just amazing when they just pack into the subway cars and like they literally have people pushing them in.
Well, we had a different subway.
Them in there.
We had a different subway experience than that. But like my thing was at the Beijing Zoo, just to get your ticket, right? Was just everybody pushing to the front.
Wow.
And no, you know, whatever. And I think it's just not a thing that they've done. You know, they don't, whatever. The subway thing though was so different than what you see on YouTube and everything else because they were ultra polite to us. We would take the subway, and we were able to take the subway because the Olympics had just been there, right? Mm-hmm. So everything, all of the instructions, everything was in English. You know, they had, well, not even English. It was English, and every language you can imagine was super clear. So it was not hard for us to figure out how to get from A to B on the subway. And people there, the subway was way more polite than anywhere else I've been in China. Okay. Like they would, my daughter, she couldn't walk a lot by herself. Like because of her heart condition, she would get tired easily. So my wife had to carry her. And also my daughter had never seen a dude before. Like I was the first man. Like the orphanage was all women.
Okay.
And staffed all by women. So she had never met a guy before. So my daughter didn't want anything to do with me when we were in Beijing at all. If my wife let her down, she'd walk a little bit. If I'd try to pick her up, she'd scream. She would just go nuts. So my wife had to carry her everywhere. So when we got to the subway, everybody would give up their seat for my wife. Like my wife, like 3 people would get up so my wife could sit down.
That's amazing.
And and people
here they'll literally not piss on you if you're on fire. Like
yeah,
it's my piss.
I know. It was I was expecting the worst. Like we were like, you know, I don't know, let's try it, let's see what happens. It could not have been different than what, you know, whatever BuzzFeed feeds you on social media. That was not the case for us at all. In Beijing or later on in Guangzhou when we had to go down there. It was
before we go too far, when you guys both went to the orphanage together?
Yep. Oh yeah, so you were talking about the conditions there.
What was that like? Number one, what was the
So I want to say like the building itself, if you just imagine an American school built in like the 30s, right?
Okay.
Like that was kind of, it was like a cinder block building, you know,
Nothing
like
fancy. Just
it was
bare
not
minimum.
fancy, but it also wasn't. I mean, I can't imagine being a kid living there because it wasn't fancy to speak of at all, but it also wasn't. It wasn't comfortable.
Okay.
And it felt like an elementary school that you might have gone to in the 80s, 70s, 80s, 60s, whatever.
There's no aesthetic to it. It's just
No aesthetic, no warmth,
okay. Any playground stuff outside? Did they get to play?
Well, so we drove down the driveway, and in the front there was kids outside doing group exercises, right?
Okay.
Almost like a caricature of what you see on whatever. All the kids out there doing jumping jacks, doing whatever, all dressed the same. But he took
So
us
they're
around the
being
corner.
not fat Americans. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah, exactly. So, but our daughter, you had to go around around the building to the back,
Okay.
and that's where they kept the kids with the special needs, I guess. And our daughter was back there, and that was a little bit more just glum, not cheery.
Was it clean?
It seemed clean. It was clean.
Okay.
I mean, it was clean. It wasn't. It was like an elementary school.
Okay.
That same smell. Everything about going into just a school built out of cinder blocks and cement.
Gotcha.
That was it.
So how did the introduction go down?
It was weird, man. It was.
That's what I want. Like,
we
what's
met
the
the,
first interaction like? And did you observe her from afar first,
No,
or
no.
it's like here you are in this room, and there she is.
We before we went there, the woman, our guide, too, had given us a backpack full of Chinese treats, right? Like candy and mostly candy and crackers and whatever. And she said, "Here, take this. When you meet your daughter, give her some treats." Like, all right, that's fucking weird, but okay. And so we went, we sat down, we signed all the paperwork. We signed it with our thumbprints
Before meeting her,
before meeting our daughter. Yeah,
Okay.
gave the money to the director of the orphanage.
because they want the money so you don't change your mind. Or like walk in there and like,
Yeah.
well, I'm out of here.
Yeah. And then they brought our daughter in. They just, she walked in, they were holding her hand. She sat the daughter in between me and my wife and said something to her in Chinese. And my daughter looked at my wife and looked at me and then looked back at my wife and then looked at the backpack and pointed at it. And
She
my
knew.
wife opened it and gave her some candy, and that was
all
it.
the kids must know that. They're like, oh, when you get adopted, they give you a bag full of candy.
I guess so. I
Be
don't
ready
know.
for it.
It was
So what was like her? It was just
she was just tentative. She did not
Okay.
know. I think it was just
she was
as
with the
dis-
program though, but just like at ease or not at ease.
She
or?
was pretty much at ease. So at one point she started crying when we were starting to leave, and like her caretaker, she had a caretaker there,
Mhm.
and when they were separated, she started crying really hard.
Okay, imagine.
And then
That's probably her mother figure.
yeah, I think so. And then we got in our car. We were both in the back, and after a little bit, like when we were leaving the orphanage, she had stopped crying, and I got a picture somewhere of my wife just holding my daughter's hand, and they're both looking at each other like
I guess we're a family now. That's
yeah.
good.
And my daughter immediately took to my wife, like just latched on,
Nice.
and so we're driving back from the orphanage.
Did they
our
give you any
hotel.
like pre-prep of that? Like, okay, this is what to expect from
Not
these
really,
kids from this
no.
culture,
Not really. I mean.
or just here's your kid. Good luck.
Yeah, it was pretty much it. It was like, it's going to be strange. You just do the best you can.
Okay.
So we picked her up. We got in the back of our car. Our driver took us back to the hotel, and that was it. My daughter literally fell asleep in my wife's lap, I think, at some point. And we went back to the hotel.
Did you guys have that moment? I don't, maybe you didn't say it to each other, but maybe you felt it. Just that, yeah, we made the right decision. Like, okay, this is our kid. This feels right now. Was that?
I don't know. I think
Was it still just kind of like a shock for
it was
everybody
mostly
involved?
just a shock. It was like, holy fuck! Like this. I was expecting something to go wrong up until the time that we had her.
Right.
Actually, I was expecting something to go wrong the entire time we were in Beijing. I was expecting,
Something wrong that would prevent the adoption from happening.
yeah,
kind of thing?
yeah.
Okay.
I was like, something's gonna get fucked up. Like this doesn't, nothing goes this smooth for us, And we were really, we were really lucky. It was that part of it went well. The ride back, my daughter fell asleep in my wife's lap. That was fine. We went back to the hotel. I think we went right back to the hotel. And then right when we got to the hotel, we ordered room service. And they brought it up, and it's, chopsticks and whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter picked up the chopsticks, and my wife went to the bathroom, and I was preparing the food because I was just trying to get like all the stuff, sorted. And my daughter was literally had two chopsticks, and I don't know if you've noted like the electrical outlets in China. It's just two circles next to each other, right? Like it's not the different outlet. Anyway, my daughter literally walked towards the outlet with the two metal chopsticks, about to jam them in the outlet.
Jesus.
I'm like, holy fuck! And I literally I think I saw that happen, and she was just like maybe 6 inches away from the outlet. I kicked her. I'm like, no, don't fucking. And I
I get it, but that's had to be a shock to her. What the fuck? Yeah. This is what you adopted me for, to kick my ass?
literally like 6 inches, 6 inches away from the outlet, and maybe 2 hours after having her, I've already kicked my daughter in the face, like just full on Randy Savage, boot to the fucking noggin.
But that's consider the alternative though. You don't have your kid for 10 minutes and you kill her.
Oh
all right.
Man, I couldn't. Yeah, I was so terrified.
Imagine going back to the. Can we get another one? This one shorted out.
We broke it. Give us.
Just take us directly to the airport too, please.
I was so that was
we're not
so
good at
fucked
this.
up. It was like, give us. I kicked her, and then she went down, and she started crying for some reason, and my wife comes. My wife comes out of the bathroom. She's like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, I fucking kicked her in the face.
Just testing her for durability. Just see how she's gonna hold up.
I was like, weeble wobble wiggle. She should get up right now. And that was so. I mean, she wasn't gonna have anything to do with me at all to begin with, right?
Right.
After kicking her in the face, absolutely wanted nothing to do with me. Like she clung to my.
How many times does this story come up now? She's 13, 14 years old now.
Oh God, I don't think.
Hey,
I've
Dad,
told
remember
her
that time you
recently.
fucking kicked me? You fucking asshole.
She doesn't remember, but like, it was. Yeah, she doesn't. We don't talk about it too much, but yeah, it was. I mean, I don't know, a little, whatever.
You saved her. You did the right thing.
Kicking my daughter. Yeah, this is the one time in my life kicking my daughter in the face is the right thing to do. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe there's another time. I don't know. We'll see. She's just turning into a teenager, so
Right,
that might happen
I'm
again.
gonna have to kick her some other time.
But yeah, so we were in Beijing. When we were there with her, we took her to the Beijing Zoo. That was amazing. We went to Tiananmen
How's the
Square.
Jew? The zoo compared?
The Jew?
How do the Jews compare over there?
There's no Jews.
Is there Jews in the zoo?
I don't think so.
It's a weird exhibit. I could say something even worse right here, but I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
How's the zoo compare?
It was massive.
Massive.
Oh my God! It was. So we, just in the last couple of years, I've been to the San Diego Zoo, which is supposed to be one of the best zoos in America.
All right. That's a nice zoo
And
I went to.
that one was probably half the size of the Beijing
No
Zoo.
shit.
God, yeah. It was just, they had everything there, every single thing you can imagine. I loved, like, that was one of the highlights for me is the Beijing Zoo. I went to Tiananmen Square. I actually went to I'm trying to remember if my wife was with me or not, if she was resting. My wife was so exhausted because she had to carry the kid everywhere. The kid's 3 years old. It's not a small baby.
Right.
And so she was just wiped out. At one point, I wanted to go to a bookstore in China. I wanted to see what does that look like? Because it just, everything you hear about, how the Chinese government controls, what they see and read and
good idea. Yeah.
everything. I'm like, I want to see what that bookstore is like. And I went to a Chinese bookstore and it was like 3 stories, just like 3 stories of just dense with everything. Like it wasn't. And then I'm like, okay, where's the like I wanted to see if they had any American books, and out of this blew my mind. I'm like,
It's gonna be
out
like
of the
a
three
copy of
stories-
Old Yeller. That's
Yeah, they had like one little row, like one little section and one little row of American literature, and that like I'm like, my God, what the fuck are we missing out on? Right? Like all of that literature, all of that, like there's there's been 4 times as many people in China since forever, writing, creating, doing whatever, and we don't know any of it. Like we don't know. I mean, what's the one Chinese? We know Mulan. Like that's the one Chinese story that we know.
Right.
You know, and we know Mulan, and we have Kung Pao chicken. Like that's
Right.
all we know.
I was gonna say all
of
the
Chinese
shit you
culture.
read in egg rolls or the fortune cookies. That's all the
Yeah, that's
the
and
information we
yeah,
get.
and it just blew my mind. And like I'm like, wow, there's, I don't know if the American government is fucking with us or if it's the Chinese government fucking with them, but like there's all
It's
this-
probably a little bit of
a
both.
little bit of both, and there's all this shit like we could read and do and whatever and experience that we're not we're not seeing it, we're not exposed to it. And it
Could you like, speaking of those, could you buy a book from there and bring it back with no
Yeah,
problems? That's not
absolutely, yeah.
okay.
I bought a little stack, and they don't have bags over there. Like
Yeah.
I bought it, and what they do over there, they just they have ribbon. They tie a ribbon around everything you buy and tie it really tight. There you go. And then they tie a little, like when the way they tie it, there's a built-in handle, right?
Okay.
So they build a handle in it, wrap it up, and you just walk around with what you bought. And yeah, I bought like 3 graphic novels that I
Well, the
still
drug
can't
dealers
read.
over there do it the same way. You just go there and get like a bunch
Yeah.
of ecstasy or something, just a bunch of pills tied together with string.
There you go. Yeah. Dental floss.
Right.
So I bought a lot of stuff. I mean, and I spent, I forget how much, probably 10 cents. But I I got a shit ton of books, graphic novels. They're still somewhere in the house. And all I did, like I literally judged them all by the covers. I'm like, all right, this looks, whatever that is, looks interesting, and
Right.
this and this and this. And
Also, it's all in Chinese, so you're not getting
yeah,
any translations of it. You have
I have
to
no idea what it
change
says.
stuff.
So yeah, I've got a lot of stuff there. That was my one big stop. Yeah, so that was it. That was Beijing. And then you go, so you typically fly into Beijing, visit for, however long, go to a province. Well, we just stayed in Beijing for 6 or 7 days. And then after that, we flew down to, everybody flies to Guangzhou to finalize the adoption.
Okay.
So Guangzhou is way south in China. And there's one hotel down in Guangzhou, the White Swan Hotel, where almost every family that adopts in China stays at the White Swan Hotel to finalize their adoption, because I guess all of the embassies for all the countries are within a 10-minute taxi ride.
Okay.
So we picked up our daughter. We went to we flew down to Guangzhou, like a 3-hour flight. That's where we had to go to the American embassy in Guangzhou, where she got her papers to come to America. When we were in Beijing, she actually had to get a Chinese passport to fly out of the country.
Right.
And they helped us with all that. We took that to Guangzhou. They give her her visa or whatever the fuck it's called to get into the States, and then finalize her adoption here. Guangzhou was fine. I mean, Guangzhou was a little less, I don't know.
Smaller city, but just
It was still ridiculously massive, but it felt less Americanized. I mean, way
okay.
less Americanized than Beijing was.
less of a touristy type
yeah.
place.
Yeah, and that's where, like, Guangzhou is where I actually got the sense of, like, what the Chinese government like in Beijing, everything seemed free and easy, and like people were doing whatever the fuck they wanted to. I'd ask communism isn't what people say. Like, it wasn't like our waitresses wanted to be waitresses. They're like, yeah, this is. I asked one of them, like, is this what you wanted to do, or I had a little toasty. I had a little I forget what the Sing Sing was the beer there.
Okay.
Sing Tao. Fuck, I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, I had a couple. I'm like, is this really, like, are you, And she's like, no. This was at a Hard Rock Cafe. And she's like, no, I want to work at the Hard Rock. This is a lifetime dream for me. I'm like, all right. I don't know what the fuck, I thought I thought it was a communist thing, and no, everybody seemed to be doing what they wanted to do.
That's stuff I love right there. Is I just love to pick the brains of people from other countries, and just get their, their take on our country, and then try to do what you were doing. Try to get as much truth as possible. Like, this is what we hear. This is what we're told.
Well, that's what the bookstore was about for me. Is just seeing and then like talking to people. Like nobody was doing anything that they didn't want to be doing. It seemed like, and also like the weird thing for my wife is very bashful, right? Like super super shy. And at the time she had blonde
God, you're
hair.
the opposite person. You're the total opposite.
Yeah. Well, at the time she had blonde hair. We went to the Great Wall for one of the times in Beijing.
Yeah, of course you do.
And that was weird for her because everybody, even after having the Olympics there, and I imagine they were just flooded with people from all over the place, people would just go up to her and take their picture with her, right? Like they'd put her arm around her and do like a selfie with my wife because they just like that was a weird thing for them. They didn't see
These are Chinese people?
Yeah, Chinese people.
Or
Yeah.
I was going to say tourists from other countries.
100% Chinese people. They just want to get their picture taken with my wife, and my wife, the last thing she wants is attention ever.
Just because and that's specifically because she was blonde? Is that like a thing over there? Like
it was
the
no,
blonde
it was,
hair?
I think it was the blonde hair helped in that case, but
Okay.
I mean, she's I think she's very gorgeous, and I think that like that was a thing too. Is like, oh God, look at this gorgeous, blonde haired white woman, let's get her picture. Like that was just a
Makes sense.
weird,
Because I'm the opposite. Every time I see a hot Chinese lady, I'm trying to get her picture. So
yeah, I would imagine.
same thing.
Stay away from my daughter. No, that was a weird for her. That was a weird cultural thing.
That's
But
weird.
yeah, so Guangzhou was. I was gonna say that's where like the government. We had a driver in Guangzhou,
Okay.
and his name was like he said, "Call me Tony." Like it was I think it was Tony or Anthony or something. And I'm like, "What is it like? Is this what you wanted to do?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I drive people around, mostly Americans. They come down here. I pick them up in the White Swan. We do whatever. I drive a Buick. You guys should love that." And Buicks were a huge thing in China.
Really?
It was.
That's why they're still in business. Okay.
It's a cultural thing. Like Chinese, I looked it up because everybody in China, like the Buick was the prestige automobile, more than a BMW.
Does the word Buick have a different translation over there? That means
No,
something?
it actually, it went back to this, there was I don't know if it's a emperor or whatever in like the 20s, and he always loved Buicks, right?
Interesting.
And so ever since then, even in 2005, having a Buick LeSabre in 2005 was like the taxi drivers drove BMWs. Like they can have the fucking BMW. The good guy, like
They
the
want
Buick, that was the fucking money melon in China.
Holy shit. So my first car, I was dope then. I had a little
yeah.
Buick Skylark, a little
Hell
four-door
yeah.
copper. No.
Take that to Beijing.
Holy shit. I was.
But our guy there, Tony, our driver, he was saying in Guangzhou, so they had a pollution problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling us this story about how you used to need a special license to drive a motorcycle, right?
Okay.
And women loved guys that drove motorcycles because the licenses were expensive. And so,
So it's not like the bad boy on a bike thing. It's
No, it was like,
you're a
this
baller,
guy-
got the
this
permit.
guy's got fucking money.
Gotcha.
So if you've got a Honda Shadow, chicks are just going crazy. And so
As they were here in the 80s.
I don't think that's true.
Was it 80s or 90s? 90s.
I don't think Honda Shadows were ever cool. It was, but in China, like it was like, yeah, I used to have a Honda Shadow. It was a 750, the biggest bike you can have. Like, okay, that's adorable. And he goes, no, man, every girl loved me. Every girl wanted to be with me. Especially after the government raised the fees, so you had to re-register your motorcycle every year, and the fees kept going up and up. I'm like, well, what happened, man? Why are you driving a cab now? And he goes, well, and this is the thing that where the government like control kicked in. I'm like, he's like, yeah, the government, because of the pollution, government said no more motorcycles. So they said no more licenses, and everybody that had a license could sell their motorcycle back to the government for like $25. And he said, and I'm like, well, could you choose not to sell? And he goes, no, everybody sold their motorcycle to the government for $25. I'm like, holy fuck.
That's crazy.
That's what, like, that's control. Like, that's the thing where, like, the whole communist, like, whatever kicked in. I'm like, wow, that is, or not even communist, whatever the government,
Yes,
overbearing government shit. Like that's, I mean, and to a certain degree, yeah, it sucks that happened to the guy, but like the government recognized, okay, the fucking pollution problem is insane, and motorcycles are the worst, like 10 times worse than cars.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a Harley. It pollutes so fucking much because the first thing anybody with a motorcycle does is take off all the mufflers, take off everything else. Yeah, they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible for like motorcycles, lawnmowers, all that shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm like, man, it sucks about your motorcycle, but at the same time, at the very least, if you want to see an effective government, like their problem solution,
Right.
and they did it.
And of course they've grown up in that, so they're conditioned to that type of.
Tony was a little bitter.
Was he? Okay.
He was a little fucked up. I mean, he's like, I'm driving a cab now. No, I'm driving a cab now. Nobody wants to fucking get with a cab driver. So he was reminiscent about his Honda Shadow days. And
Right.
Now not so much. So I don't know. I don't know what my takeaway was. I mean, I'd be pissed if I could sell my Harley for $50 to whoever. So I don't know.
Well, we're getting close on time here, so let's jump ahead because I want to ask you about first arrival here, and then I want to get into detail about her surgery because that's just interesting how that all went down. But so you get her back into the States. When you come into the States with this new person you didn't leave with, how does that work?
It was strange. So we come back, right, and we're in October, and so I'm trying to put myself in her little shoes. And it was so weird because we come back and I think it's like the middle of October and she's just hanging out at home and she's fine at home. Like she's getting used to things. We had a little puppy. You
guys were living here in Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, so we had the puppy, we had the boys. They're all getting along fine. 2 weeks after she gets here, she gets this little, like, it's Halloween, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she sees kids come to the door dressed as Spider-Man, Superman, ghosts, witches, everything. And every one of them gets candy. And she doesn't know what the fuck is going on. We didn't take her out I don't think we took her out that first year.
Right.
Because she,
Tell her something.
Like that was so fucking weird for her. And I think, but she was into it.
I was going to say,
she
was
started
a good
giving
response?
out candy and stuff. She was, she was pretty happy. And then like the next month we put up our Christmas tree and I've got this picture on Facebook. I think a lot of people have seen it where I got a picture of my daughter. The minute she sees us put up the tree and turn on the lights the first time.
Right.
And like her eyes are just huge and her fists are like she was just so
right.
She had no fucking idea
what was going on.
Holy
shit.
And like her little mind was and I think like so she had Halloween.
Well, how about, is she understanding English?
Well, when she got back, there was a show on TV called Ni Hao Kai Lan, right? It's like Dora the Explorer, but with a Chinese girl.
Okay.
She watched that just religiously. She watched that and Yo Gabba Gabba just nonstop. And she picked up like some English within a month. She was saying, like she could say like single, like hungry.
TV show.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, she just consumed it. So she'd watch that stuff and she'd pick it up. And then Halloween, Christmas came and she got presents. So like she had Halloween, Christmas, and then nothing. And she was a little weird. She thought every month just Americans did some fucked up shit, like put a tree up in their living room or dressed up weird or did something. And then like January.
April again? What were we doing in
February,
April?
Yeah. So that was, but she was like, she acclimated like super fast.
Did anything like catch her off guard where it, like to a negative thing, like scared her? Like why the fuck do you guys do this here?
Not really, no. I mean, the Halloween thing was weird.
Still young enough where she really
The weird thing on Christmas was, and I think this comes from back when she was in the orphanage. I mean, I think it wasn't like Lord of the Flies, but it was like you take what you can, like, it's not Sesame Street,
Right.
Whatever. So on Christmas, I got a picture of her wearing every single present that she got. Like we got her these little fairy wings and a hat and a new jacket, and so she's got a toy in each hand. And
she wanted to enjoy it all at one time.
And she's just got it all, and she's like not letting go of any of it.
That's awesome.
So that was, I think that was her. but like, I don't know. I mean, it was so strange watching how quickly she got used to American everything, to the point where now, like, like it was just Chinese New Year,
Okay.
and I think we had McDonald's. Like we always tried to do something special for her.
So is she interested in her culture?
Not really.
Not really. Okay.
I mean,
American culture's dope. Why would you?
yeah. I mean, she's totally wired now, and she's
That's what I say about my girl. She was adopted when she was like a baby. Like,
Yeah.
I think was she even one, maybe something like that. And like she's the most Minnesotan Asian. Like she has the accent and the
Yeah.
whole 9 yards. And it's
Yeah, I think it's
really
the
weird.
same with our daughter. Like she's just not, the Chinese part of her is. I mean, she's still semi interested at times, but not super. So I don't know.
Well, and when you got over here, is there anything that you have to do because you bring somebody from a different country as far as medical? Like, do you have like shots and all that stuff?
She got all of her immunizations, but because of her other medical issues, like it was a little touchy because she couldn't get everything.
Okay.
Like she's got certain medical issues where like she has to take amoxicillin every day.
Oh,
because
wow,
She's
still.
got
Is that for life now? Is that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. But like, yeah, so when she got home, her she still had, she still had her heart condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she still had, like, her skin was like this bluish tint, her fingernails were purple, just because her blood.
Was she any pain or discomfort, or is it more just
Not
energy
really,
level
no.
type?
I think it was energy level. She got tired really easily.
Okay.
Yeah, so her blood.
I wonder what if her nutrition was good too there. If they were feeding her the right calories, the right nutrition.
Yeah, they talked a little bit about her diet in the orphanage, and kanji was a thing that she had a lot in the orphanage, which is just like a really watered down, ricey. It's like rice pudding, but more watery.
Borderline gruel kind of thing.
I don't think it's necessarily cruel. I think she had a variety of stuff, but like,
Okay.
we kept a close eye on her diet
Okay.
when she got back because it was just a lot of different food that she's absolutely not used to. Especially the fast food.
Was her body? Did it take a while to get used to food here? Was there any difference like that?
I got a gross story about that. Like when we got her.
Good.
This is super gross, and I apologize to you.
No, this is the
listeners.
perfect show for it.
But whenever she went number 2, right? Whenever she took a dump, when she was in China, it was always tan, right?
Okay.
And it was always just tan, like always tan. And then like after a few days of being in America, because she didn't know how to flush the toilet, right? It turned dark brown like everybody else here.
Right.
And I was wondering about that, and I looked it up, and I'm like, yeah, Chinese food doesn't have the preservatives and all the shit that American food has, and that's what makes our
So
shit.
the tan poo is the healthier poo.
That
maybe.
is absolutely, yeah. So she wasn't being malnourished or anything. She was being fed appropriately. Like she had we, if anything, we're fucking her out more.
Right.
Than,
Here, have some more McDonald's.
Yeah. But that was like, I remember that, and I was like, wow, I don't know if that's bad or good or whatever. And then she got here, and I'm like, okay,
Looks like you're American now, dear.
Yeah, all right. It's
That's clearly a U.S. turd. That's what
Yeah.
that is right there. That's a made in America
That's-
poop.
Yeah, and literally in China, her shit did not stink. In China, like, well, that's fucking weird, man. You shouldn't be. There should be something going on. And then she comes there, and I'm like, all right, that shit stinks. All right, you're fine now.
You're one of the family now.
Yeah, nice work. So
what's in, because we don't want to keep the audience in suspense about her medical condition. Obviously, she's
Oh,
doing
yeah.
well now, but can you go through that? Remind us again what the condition was, and then what was the process and how that all get
so
taken care of.
she had she was a special needs kid. Did we say this yet? She had the
You said the name once of the condition, but I don't.
a congenital heart defect.
Yeah.
So when we got the paperwork, right?
Mhm.
The paperwork we sent it to the U of M. We had a deal with the U of M where they would look at our stuff. We gave them a donation. The doctors would look at it and tell us what's going on.
Right.
And when we got the information from my daughter, there was a guy at the U of M. His name's Dr. Bass. Looked at our paperwork and said, "Listen, your daughter has a really complex heart defect, and based on what I have in front of me, and the information that he had was from a Chinese hospital in Beijing, and it was an X-ray and a couple other things. It wasn't like super in depth. It wasn't like the best and like the greatest medical equipment. It was the best that they had where she was, right? And he said, well, like what this tells me is that your daughter has a condition that we can't fix, that I don't think we can fix, right? If she went untreated, if you didn't do anything, I mean, she's going to have a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe, before this is, a fatal condition. And we had to make the decision, well, what do we do? We're going to bring her here. Let's do the best we can. And so that's what we did. We brought her here. We brought her here. I think we were at home for a week before we brought her to the U of M, to the pediatric cardiology clinic there. And the same doctor that evaluated our paperwork saw her. And when we brought her here, I mean, we were still expecting. He's like, based on what he said, it was, she had a lifespan of anywhere between 3 years and, 5, whatever. And they did tests here. And they told us, well, we're going to look at a couple of things. All right, we're going to see, what our stuff tells. And they did an MRI, cardiogram, whatever.
Did the diagnosis get better or
oh
worse?
God, yeah,
Okay,
it got a lot better. They said, okay, we're going to do a couple of things, short term, and then we're going to do some surgery. So she ended up with having, I think it was like 4 or 5 open heart surgeries.
Good God.
Yeah, it was.
How old is there? Is a time range between those?
Oh man, it was within the first year that we had her.
So 4 to 5 years old, she's getting open heart surgery.
Yeah, and
like, are they spreading the rib cage and
exactly?
Doing oh my!
There was
God.
one point where it was. So she had her first one, and then they closed her, and then she had to have a second one. They had the second one, and we were at the U of M Children's Hospital, and they brought her out, and they're like, okay, you gotta, we want to talk to you. And I was like, oh shit, because they look serious. And like,
right.
We didn't close her chest. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean you didn't close her chest? I'm like, well, we might have to go in again. So we just put we didn't like staple everything. We just put a little gauze over there and taped it closed. So, so that if we have to go back, we can, not have to continue the trauma of cracking the ribs and everything else. And so like literally for like a month, she had an open chest wound so that I could go in.
Holy fuck.
And so I guess like the way they explained it to me is
how does she function? Is she just in the bed?
She's in bed. Yeah, she's in bed. She's intubated. She's mostly like alert sometimes, but also doesn't know English completely yet, so doesn't really understand what's happening, and we can't really explain it to her. It was really, really tough.
They have a translator there to at least like, look, we're not trying to torture you.
I was lucky. My brother's wife is Chinese, and she spoke Chinese, so she was able to sometimes say a little bit, and she helped. I'd call her in Beijing sometimes and be like, hey, what is I forgot what my daughter was saying, something like wahajimo, and I'd call I'd call home. I'd be like, hey, what does wahajimo mean? And she'd say, put the phone up, and she'd hear it, and she goes, oh, she has to poop. I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm so glad I called.
How do you say it again?
Wahajimo or something.
Wahajimo.
This is more than 11 years
Can't wait
ago
to
now,
use
so
that.
Yeah. But this is Pijo. I know that one for sure. Pijo
the
is
beer.
Yeah, it's a beer. But anyway, no. So there was a period of like 3 weeks to a month where my daughter, she just had an open, they just left it open so they could go in there.
But she was contained in the hospital. It wasn't
In
like
the hospital,
she wasn't going home and like,
no, I'm way too clumsy.
look out, honey, your heart's falling out.
Yeah, I'm way too clumsy with popcorn for her to come home.
It's like couch cushions, you get your keys stuck in there, your phone.
No, she was in the hospital at the time, and U of M Children's Hospital, I can't say enough good things about them. They were terrific. We had a nurse, Jen Morse was one of our nurses. She was fantastic. Dr. Bass, Dr. Snow, very Minnesotan names, but these are real people.
Right.
Dr. Grunstein was another one that's just like phenomenal. And so we went from an expectancy that, we're going to bring her to America, give her, take her to Disneyland, do a couple of things with her, give her the best life that we can, to, okay, she's going to outlive the both of you. Like we've turned her into the bionic woman, right? Like she's got like, a perfect little heart now. Maybe a little too good. Like she's a little too hyperactive now.
Take her back in there, Doc, and slow her down a little bit.
Like, it's just kind of, well, yeah. So like, one of the, like once they, her blood flow was so poor, like her blood pressure, her blood flow, was so bad. Like she'd have, I think part of her, like her biggest part of her problem was, non-oxygenated lungs, non-oxygenated blood would bypass the lungs and get recirculated through her system, right? And they fixed that. They basically
that means that the blood without oxygen just doesn't feed the muscles, doesn't
right. Like it doesn't provide the sustenance that you're like. Her fingernails were purple, her skin was blue. It was, it was just not good. And they fixed that. And then after they fixed that, like she was just so bouncy and energetic, and like when they
probably
fixed
doing a rail at Coke. She was probably like, oh my God, I'm ready to go now. Let's do this.
Yeah. She after it, like she was just like, when we brought her home, like she was literally glowing. It seemed like going from like pale, like gray blue skin to like literally just like a candle, just like light coming out of her. It was crazy. She was fantastic. She's completely healthy now. I mean, she still has to take, one of her, like she takes sildenafil, which is, basically Viagra, I guess, in pill form.
Okay.
She takes
because
that.
blood circulation.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. They found out that Viagra, before it gave old man boners, it was supposed to just increase circulation. Well, that also gives guys boners. So I guess, whatever. So she takes Viagra, sildenafil. She takes amoxicillin.
Are these all lifetime drugs now?
Lifetime drugs. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh God, it's a cocktail. Like there's 5 or 6 things a night that she takes. Little Senofpril and.
Is there anything day-to-day life stuff she can or has to do now besides the pills? Is to maintain, or she
homework? That's all she has.
That's
to
all
do
she has to do.
That's all she has to do. No, not really. I mean, we try. I mean, we're still a little cautious about her physical activity, and
has
whatever.
all that healed? The chest bone and all that, doesn't that?
She's got a little scar there that we're probably going to take care of. I mean, it's just a cosmetic thing.
But I mean, the structure of the rib cage and all that, that's
all fine. That's all fine.
Just so evasive, like multiple surgeries in there in such a small.
Yeah. I mean, the skill level and the intelligence level of a guy that does that, I can't even fathom,
Just the confidence to think that you could do that blows me away. Like, how the hell do you just do that and just know that you're going to do it right every time? And
I don't, the confidence, the swagger, the everything about that. I mean, whatever you think of doctors and people that think they're better than you, they fucking are. Right? Shut the fuck up about, oh, you think you're better than me? There are people that are so much fucking better than you.
Exactly.
I can't stand the animosity and the whatever for people that are successful like that.
Right.
It just, I mean, especially given what those people did for my daughter and everything else. Fuck you. All right. Give me my fucking French fries.
Right.
I don't care what you fucking think.
Right.
Like your opinion does not matter to me anymore after seeing what somebody that is actually talented, that actually like earned every bit of swagger, of whatever, and call it privilege, call it whatever the fuck you want. I call it a guy that saved my daughter's life, I don't know. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
It is, what the people in that position have done for me and my family, like, has colored my opinion on everybody that gets pissed about whatever, privilege, everything else. Yeah, okay, society's got a fucking problem with that stuff. But at the same time, wait until you need something from these people,
Right.
and they do it, and it's
It's completely understandable.
I don't know.
So, what we say, 13 now, almost 14.
She'll be 14 this summer.
So,
Yeah.
where's she at bill of health wise? So she's just like, you got to take these pills, but everything else is legit.
She takes her pills, and then she's absolutely fine.
That's awesome.
Absolutely fine.
Awesome.
Talks a mile a minute. I can't wait for her to go to bed most nights now. But no, she's gonna be completely healthy, completely like full lifespan.
Nice.
Everything else, she'll be, she'll be fine.
Anything else on the adoption or the health end that we didn't cover, or something else that's important?
I don't think so. I mean, I would be curious to know what people that are just starting the process today are going through. Like, I think on Facebook I saw Tommy Thompson.
Oh, that's right. They are getting ready to adopt.
I think they're starting to do something. And I would be really curious to know, like, what the state of that stuff is now, almost 15 years later after I started it. I want to know what I want to know what that feels like.
Maybe an excuse to get him on the podcast after he gets all that taken on,
Yeah.
Do you know if did he mention adopting overseas or not, or is
No, I just saw that. I saw something with his name in adoption. That's all.
I heard it on the recent episode of their podcast, my brother's podcast. If anybody's interested.
So, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine going through it again. I mean, the financial strain is huge. For us,
Can't be any cheaper either. It's got to be more.
No, I remember when we went through what we went through in 2008, and then I think it was 2009 or 2010 that we were going through the surgeries. It was really quick after the adoption. The cost of that shit is so astronomical. Like, we went through, her first couple of surgeries. It was already her medical bill was already like $800,000.
Good God!
And the thing that caught us was, if you remember 2009 ish, you still had a lifetime limit on what your health insurance would cover. So it was $1 million, and so we were watching that vote for Obamacare. Like, we stayed up for that because that was one of the core pillars of Obamacare. Everybody focuses on the mandate and all that other bullshit. Who the fuck cares? Like, for us, it was, they're getting rid of the lifetime limit. Like, that's going to become illegal, and that's going to save us financially. That was a huge thing for us.
Right.
Without I don't know where we'd be without Obama. I mean, we'd be bankrupt. We'd be one of those families that literally bankrupted themselves because of healthcare, if not for Obamacare.
Right.
So, I mean, I know we got problems with the government and shit, but that's not one of them. That Obamacare thing is absolutely not one of the problems. So we were watching. We stayed up and watched that vote. I clapped for John McCain when he gave the thumbs down recently to overturn the whole thing. Like, some of that shit, it like, I never thought that anything like that would affect me directly.
And all the people who are fighting against it never think that too until it does.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's the sad part of it, is you sometimes those people who have that, and I'll be honest, I want a tax funded healthcare system.
Yeah.
To me, it just makes sense to me that if you're going to spend taxes to secure the country, then I think no greater metric would be the health of the country as far as security goes.
Exactly.
But take what it was, but it did legitimately help many people, and I've talked to many people that lives have forever altered and changed. And
yeah, I mean, me and my wife, we don't necessarily worry about money anymore, but had that not been a thing, hell yeah, we would be, we'd be so far behind everything.
Right.
It would, we wouldn't be able to do what we do if not for that. So.
Cool. How about this? What's in with this? Any advice, at least from your perspective, and within the generation that you did your adoption? Anything, people considering adoption, anything like that, to give them some confidence or some things to think about, anything like that, or?
I don't know. I don't have good advice because when we did it, it seemed so fucked up.
Right.
You have to find an agency that you trust.
Hmm.
That's it. I mean, if we didn't.
Is that hard to do? Did you go through multiple ones when
we went through? I think we went through like two or I think this was our third one.
And was just like a sense of just they're not right for us, or just
Yeah,
seem
it
weird?
was the one that we finally landed on was one of the people that used to work there was the wife of one of my old coworkers, and I trusted him. I trusted his wife. Like, all right, like that was, I had a connection. If you don't have a connection to anybody, I don't know how you would imagine. I can't imagine trusting these people, because it is. I mean, and it's not the agency's fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just.
Is there any government agency overlooks that at all? Is it kind
I
of
don't know. I think it's one
fly
of those
by
things
night in
that
a little
kind
way?
of. I don't think it's fly by night necessarily, but I think it's for sure one of the things. I mean, it's not a focus, right? I mean, you can't. I mean, you have to be of a certain. You have to have a certain amount of means to adopt to begin with, and yeah, I think it's an industry that's, well, I don't even think it's an industry. I think it's just something that it's ripe for corruption, you
Right.
know, and you just have to find an agency you trust. And if you are even the slightest bit uncomfortable, just get the fuck out, because it's such a huge, it's such a huge thing.
Well, how about this? How about the decision to do the adoption in the first place? I would assume you just look back now and like it was completely the right thing to do, and it's been great for you guys,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can look back and say that, but I can also, I mean, equal chance that if something went wrong, I'd be fucked and I would have nothing to look back on,
Right.
So I don't know if we got lucky. I mean, whatever. We wound up with a good agency. We got really lucky with that, and I think if we would have stuck with one of the first two, I think it was one. I can't remember if there's a second one in there, but there was just something off about it. It just didn't feel right. So
I just go by the name, like Acme Kids, That's
Yeah.
like, not the
Yeah.
first company to go with.
that's a good rule. Anything with Acme in it, just don't trust it.
Well, thank you for coming in and sharing this very personal story and
Yeah,
sharing
this is
everything.
cool.
So
This
it's
is
very
cool. I love your lair.
yeah.
This is great.
I will die in here probably.
I will admit I sent 3 people my location before I went in here, just so they knew.
I'm here. I don't come
Guys.
out in a couple hours.
I feel pretty safe. I am in Plymouth, Minnesota, but at the same time,
You
it's-
never know.
yeah. So
But thank you, Chad. Thank you
All
for,
right.
for sharing your story, and I
This is
appreciate it.
great.
I hope continued success with you and your daughter and your whole family. And I hope
All right.
it's
appreciate
awesome.
it. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the grain belt.
No worries.
All right, there we go. Another episode in the books. Thank you to Chad Juettner for coming in and talking to us about his daughter's adoption story. Right? I told you it was going to be a good episode, right? I'm telling you that it's just something I've learned, and when I guess just doing podcasts all these years is, trying to find the interesting stories, the interesting content, and it's just to not overlook what may on the surface just appear to be some average thing, right? I don't want to, put my perceptions into anybody else's heads about adoption, but on the surface you say, oh yeah, people adopt kids. Yeah, no big deal. Whatever. It's not anything awesome, It is pretty awesome. And I think his story is an exceptional example of how awesome adopted families, adoption stories can be, right? It was an amazing tale of, just getting his daughter and then the things that he and his wife had to do to, make sure she was going to have a chance to be healthy and happy. And it's got a happy ending, folks. I mean, what more can you ask for? A little bit of drama and a happy ending at the end. Right here on Filter Free America, man. That's what we bring you. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the conversation. I think it was really good. What else? Thank you to my sponsors, simplewebsite.us, simplewebsite.us, simplewebsite.us. Thank you to you guys. Don't forget, my CD is available right now for download. Go to iTunes, go to Spotify, wherever else, Apple Music, all those places where you can get downloads. It's there, okay? You search my name, search the name of the album, Neck Tattoos and GEDs, or The Secret to My Success, right? And you can find it pretty easily. If you don't want to search around for it, just go to the Filter Free America website, filterfreeamerica.com. Filter Free America, America intentionally misspelled with a K.com. Go there, okay? Go to the store link, and you click on the store link, and it'll take you right to this picture of the album. And you click to download, and it's going to take you to another page. It's going to have you all the different ways you can download the album, right? So if you're already on iTunes, boom, there's a link there. If you're already on Apple Music, boom, there's a link there. If you're on Spotify, boom, there's a link there. All that good stuff is available for you. And I've yet to get a bad review. All the reviews have been very solid on my album. Everybody likes it. Everybody thinks it's very funny, thinks it's got a very original take on it. So good. I'm glad. I thought it was when I released it. I was very proud of it. And I'm glad that no one is hurting my feelings and saying it's bad. Everybody likes it. So I want you to get a chance to check it out. So please take time to download it. Invest $9.99 into some stand-up comedy to make you laugh. And by doing that, you're also helping this very podcast as well, too, by supporting me and this comedy venture and these podcasts and everything. So spend a little bit of money, and you're going to get returns on every future episode. How about that? Am I laying it on too thick? Possibly. Whatever. Look, guys, you guys are awesome. You truly are. And I'm not just saying that to be a cordial host. I'm saying that because your listenership, your growing listenership has helped me in many, many ways, both confidence and also just, making it worthwhile to do this podcast. I can't believe the rate that it's growing, and I couldn't be happier. And of course, that none of that would happen without you guys. So thank you for that. So, have a great week. I don't know if I'm going to get a second episode up this week. This may be a 1-episode week. I'm not sure yet. I've got some others I'm recording, but I've got a lot of crap going on, starting a new job, got a lot of gigs coming up. So this may be the only episode this week. But who knows? If I get time to throw one up, you may get another one later on. Who knows? But I love you guys. Please love each other. Please love yourself. Please love your planet, right? Do that. Love your pets. Love anything that needs to be loved. How about that, right? There you go. How that's a way to wrap it all up. If something needs love, give it love, right? Yeah, that's a nice philosophy. If you've got love to spare, I think we all do, right? Share that love, right? Awesome. Okay. What am I supposed to say at the end? Oh, that's right. Spade, neuter your pets and children. Take care of that. Keep seeking the truth. And I will talk to you guys next time, right here on the one, the only, Filter-Free America. Bye-bye.